What is going on, everybody? My name is Bright Life. This is my fancy shirt. My hair is just doing whatever the heck it wants to today. And today I want to talk to you about my experience, review, and fixes for the player versus monster player system in Lord of the Rings Online. Let's jump into it. Alright, so I've been making videos on the Lord of the Rings Online now for about a month and a half, and I've had a lot of people ask me, what's the PvP like in this game? A lot of players come from other games and they expect to have a great PvP system, and I played player versus monster player a while back, and you know what? I was like, I don't really have a lot of great memories of it. Let me go try it out myself. So what we're gonna do today is we're gonna walk through my experience with PvMP, my pretty negative experience, to be honest with you, and then I wanna walk through some positive changes that are coming and some things that I think they need to do to make it even better as we move forward. So let's jump into this one. So first of all, the reason I think that PvP is so important to the leveling system is it appeals to two main classes of people that play MMORPGs. And if you don't appeal to these two classes well with PvP, they're either going to ignore the system or they're going to walk away to a game that has a better system. The first group of people that this really appeals to are the casual levelers that are looking for a little bit of a break from the grind. This is a very important thing actually when you think about it, because a lot of people, they love the story, they love playing side quests and all that stuff, but sometimes you just want to get away from that while still playing your character and play something completely unique. I know that for me, when I play World of Warcraft, when I play Final Fantasy XIV, that's something that I do all the time. I'll get into side quests and it'll kind of get repetitive, so I kind of spice it up with some PvP, and that's really more who I am. I'm a casual level PvP guy, and it really does actually feed the system, because the more people that play the PvP games, the more the second class really gets to enjoy the game themselves. Now, the second group of people that are really important to a PvP system are the hardcore PvP soldiers. These are the people that just love this game. Think of like the high-end arenas people in World of Warcraft. These are the people that are highest rated in Final Fantasy. And typically, this class of people does PvP for rewards for their character, whether it be in power progression or in just purely cosmetic or mounts kind of progression as well. And both are really important. And so the balance of PvP in any game is trying to make sure that you have a fun enough PvP system that's engaging enough that can build into those PvP master level warriors. But then on the other hand, you also want to have a PvP system that's accessible enough to newer players so that when they come to level through the experience and just kind of dip their toes into it, they're not immediately overwhelmed and just throw it away. And unfortunately, Lord of the Rings Online, just as a spoiler alert, does not really hit that balance very well. And I think it's really important that they do. And so I'm going to give some suggestions at the end as we get closer to that. But first, I want to talk about my experience. So what I did was I went in and I did not on stream play this because I really wanted to have a solid experience myself of what it would be like for just anybody to walk in. We normally get quite a few viewers on stream. They help me out a lot because I'm really stupid. But I wanted to just have a dumb guy's play in this game. And so let's talk through my experience. So first of all, I went into the create a monster player screen and I chose to be a black arrow because I've played a hunter before on the free people side. So I thought, hey, on the monster player side, let's just see what it's like on the monster player side. Now, immediately as soon as I rolled off the meat wagon, I saw a little bit of an issue. Straight off the block, I saw that I only had somewhere between like 7 and 8 attacks on my black arrow. What I knew from having a hunter at around level 120 is I think you have somewhere in the neighborhood of between 12 and 18 different arrow attacks, as well as traps and all these other things. And so immediately as a black arrow, you don't have nearly the amount of attacks as the people you're going up against in the field. They have so much more at their disposal. You have to level into those things. And the only way to level into those things is to go into the PvP zones where you're just gonna get ganked and trashed by everything anyway. And so that was where at first I was like, I don't know about this. This may not be good, but maybe my attacks are good enough. I don't know. So I kept on going. Now, the first thing that I was struck by immediately was the lack of character customization, and this is a big miss for me. This is the kind of thing that doesn't take a lot of energy to put into a game, especially one that already has a character customization, system in place, that we can't take an orc like a black arrow and at least change the hair a little bit or change the face. I think that something like this would draw a lot more people into like the deeper fantasy of player versus monster player if they actually had character customization. But no worries, I tried to get the name Dark Life, but because there are a lot of 30-year-old edgelords out there, Dark Life was not taken, so I said Not So Bright Life is my name, and I jumped into the game. There weren't any cutscenes, I'm just boom, immediately dropped into Graham's foot, and I'm given a quest to learn about the different systems of the game. Now, this is just a more personal thing, and so please don't judge the game on this, but I really don't like reading big tutorial walls of text. It's just not my favorite thing. I kind of want to just get through that and get to the action. So as I moved through it, I was kind of like, okay, infamy, you know, renown, whatever. Like, I just want to go fight people. That's really what I'm here for as a newer player. And immediately I went over and saw that I had enough, just looking through the vendors, I saw that I had enough to get some sort of skin. And so I just randomly bought a skin, and oh my gosh, that's my sleep paralysis demon. He looks so terrifying. The free peoples of Middle Earth should just run away from me right now, right off the bat. But as I jumped in, I was like, okay, listen, there are 1,000 quests here for me to get, but I just want to experience the PvP. I saw that I had 1.2 million health. I'm like, that's pretty good. You know, I've seen some champions in Bree that, you know, obviously have the little PvP symbol, and they've got around 1.2. So I'm like, oh, this is going to be great. So I run out into the field, and immediately I kind of start running with a little group of monsters, and I get two-shotted by the first free player that I try to find. And immediately I start to see a little bit of a problem here, because then as I go back out, I try to shoot some other free players, and I start doing like no damage to them. Like maybe 1, maybe 2% each shot, where if a lore master throws a fireball at me or if a champion hits me, it's like half my health instantaneously gone. And it's not because I'm lacking armor, it's not because I'm lacking anything, it's just that's kind of how the balance is in this game. And this is where I really started to see the cracks in the armor, the chinks in the armor of the PvMP system, is that as a new player, I wasn't even close to being viable with the free players on the other side. Like not even close. I would have to attack like an AFK free player for like 5 or 6 minutes in order to actually get a kill. And the only kills that I got in the game were when I ran with other people that had been playing PvMP for a long time. So they'd managed to build up some player power, which you get through infamy, I believe, and you have to go do different quests and all that stuff. But the problem is, as I started running to do those quests, I continued to get ganked by other players. And so that was a big issue. And there's a whoops kind of a thing when it comes to stuff like that, where if I as a free player can't go in and at least be viable at the beginning, it's not a great system. And I might go so far as to call it broken, because I know that there are PvMP players in the monster player category that can be viable in fights. But it's gonna take a lot of grinding for you to get there, as opposed to being able to jump in as a character and immediately start to have some fun with your friends. You're going to have to level for a long time as a monster player to even be viable. And that's at least what I thought until this scene played out. And as you can see, this is the scene of a human champion being in the middle of 12 different monster player enemies, all attacking him at once, and him taking almost no damage. That's right, almost no damage. I think I shot this guy a number of times. I was just watching, like literally off stream, blown away, my mouth hanging open as I watched this like 1v12 where this guy just wouldn't go down. And he was killing his competition. Like he was able to start mowing through us. He hits me one time for like 60% of my health or something like that. I run back to the guard and I'm just flabbergasted by how broken this is. How can one class be 1v12? And it's not about skill, it's not about class abilities, it's just a 1v12 unbalanced. And this is where really the door started to come off the hinges for me from the monster player side. These were people that were very high ranked that he was fighting, and they had no shot, no chance at all taking down this champion. And for me, as I looked at this, I just went, you know what? There's not only is there not a reason for me to play as a new player on the monster player side, but that's kind of a lack of incentive for me to play as a high end, you know, grinded out player as well. And so the PvMP system, unfortunately, from the monster player side is broken. And that's kind of a sad thing to say, but it just doesn't really work. And that was someone who came in and just looked at it and went, yeah, this probably isn't for me. And again, I come at this from a place of loving this game. I've been very pleasantly surprised by how good this game is, and I've loved it. And so I was kind of bummed, but you know what? To be honest with you, I wasn't on stream and I thought this. I thought, if you can't beat them, join them. So what I did was I went over, I have an up-leveled, you know, level 123 or something like that hunter. I jumped over and I said, let's go straight to the Etten Moors. And then I saw another huge gaping issue. When I went over to the Etten Moors with my hunter, you have to remember that when I started a brand new, right off the meat train, meat wagon, you know, Black Arrow, he had 1.2, 1.3 million health. Now he couldn't do a lot of damage. It felt like I was shooting people with Nerf bullets, but he at least had some survivability. When I went in with an up-leveled character, which means they'd given me the best armor for level 120 or 130 or whatever it was, when I up-leveled to that character, I have the best armor possible. I have the hero's armor, so I have the legendary armor, I've got all the trinkets, the rings, all that stuff. My health was somewhere in the neighborhood of 280,000 health, which means that a fresh off the block monster player could shoot me with one arrow and instantly kill me, which blows my mind. That means that the only way that you can play on the free player side is if you level up all the way to 140 and then trinket yourself out and go out to raids and do all that stuff. That's when you'll be viable. And not only will you be viable at that point, you'll be so overpowered that at some point it's gotta just not be fun, right? And so the PvMP system is unfortunately really just broken right now. It's not in a good place. And they've had some stuff come out about PvMP that I want to talk about here in just a moment, but right now it's not good. Like, I would love for PvMP to be good. I love good PvP every once in a while. I love jumping in and just having a goofy time. And there are some games that actually define themselves by their PvP. So like things like Guild Wars 2. World versus World is one of the most fun systems that I will jump into Guild Wars 2 just to play that. World of Warcraft arenas are typically really fun, as well as their battlegrounds. Final Fantasies is really fun as well, but it's such an unbalanced system. So unfortunately for me right now, as I look at the PvMP system, it's a really cool idea with a completely broken system. It's a great idea. The idea that you can go in and create all sorts of different player characters, it's open world but contained in one zone, is a great idea. The fact that there are kind of these boss castle sieges where you can run together and, you know, fight with your Zerg against their Zerg, that is all fun stuff. And, you know, lag, which there's a lot of in the MMOs, lag aside, it's a great idea for a zone. It can be really fun. The zone is big, it's very varied in its environments. It's cool to be able to see a player on the other end that you can fight. That's all really cool stuff. But it feels as if the game has passed it by. It feels as if the development of this game in the PvE world has gone ahead while the PvP world has just stayed the same, and they've just kind of thrown some random numbers that don't really make any sense at the PvP. And I'd really love for the PvP to be good in this game. I really genuinely would. And the harshest I guess I can be about this, because I really do love the developers and I know that they're a smaller team and they don't have a huge budget to work with. The problem to me is that the fixes for PvMP are actually pretty simple. They're not extremely expensive. They're not going to take a ton of time to do. It's just more number balancing than anything. And so I want to talk about some things that I think that they can do very quickly. Now, here's where I'd turn that back and turn that into encouragement for the developers. There was recently a forum post where they're going to be allowing all of the monster player classes to become free to every player, even if they're not a VIP, which is a great idea. I hope this shows that they're moving this in the direction of more accessibility, but I hope that that's only a first step, because if you give accessibility to a broken system, it will only make the system fail faster. And so what I'm really hoping is that they take this first step, and then I'm going to give some suggestions for a couple more steps that I think will really help the PvMP system be better. And I hope that it does get better, because I really want to play it more. I've got a lot of fun ideas for streams and videos, but it's got to be fixed before we can do things like that. So the first fix is a noob on the free player side should be able to be competitive right away. I should be able to jump in as a level 10 or a level 30 or a level 50 and immediately be viable. And what that means is if you have monster players that are coming off the chopping block at 1.2 million health, your almost max level characters should not be coming in at 200,000. That's just a very simple number tweak, but I think that every single person should come in with that 1.2, 1.3 million health. If you're gonna up level their health anyway, go on ahead and just up level it to where you would expect a monster player to come out up leveled too, because otherwise it doesn't make any sense to jump in as a free player into PvMP without that. The same goes for damage. A level 50 player should be able to jump into the PvMP experience and actually have a lot of fun with their limited number of skills. That's okay. If they choose to do that and they don't have the skills, that's fine. Now the second one is this: we need to allow the monster player to be matched with the free player. Now the monster player rolling off the block, in my opinion, should be able to match the free player in damage. That's what I think is true. I think that if you have a monster player and you have a free player going at one another, the only thing that should really stand in each other's way is skill or lack of knowing how to play a class. I think this is really important. If a black arrow and a hunter go up against one another, they need to have the same skills, which we'll talk about in a moment, but they also need to have the same damage so that it's actually a little bit of a fair fight. Because if you think about it, that's actually a lot more fun. One-shotting a monster player with Heartseeker may be fun, you know, the first 1 or like maybe 10 times, but then after that it probably just gets a little bit boring, where if you're able to go up against a Black Arrow and actually have a really fun fight where you're using the same different kinds of skills and you're trying to outmaneuver one another, that's a really cool idea, and I think it would make PvMP a ton better. Which leads me to my third point. My third point is give all the monster players all of their skills right away. Maybe they can level those skills up for a little bit more damage, maybe it's a reduced cooldown or something like that, but you gotta give them all the skills right away because they're so immediately outclassed as soon as they step outside of Graham's foot. As soon as they step outside of Graham's foot, they're immediately outclassed. And that's a really big bummer for monster players that want to play. Because if I'm going up against a hunter as a Black Arrow, well, I've got like 6 or like maybe 5 real attack moves to use, and they have like 18 or 15 or 20 or something like that. They're just so much better than I am right away, and that's a bummer. Which I think if Lord of the Rings Online were to take on a Final Fantasy system, it would be cool to have whether it be a lower leveled free player or a brand new monster player come into the field, just have them have all of their attacks right away. They can move their action bars and figure it out while they're standing in the free spaces, and then they just go out and they have all the skills at their disposal. It would actually be a really cool way to learn your end game class before getting to end game if you're a free player, but it also gives viability to the monster player on this side, and I think that would be a really cool thing. And I think all of these things would solve what I'm sure is already in the comments by now in the video, which is I play on Arkenstone. I play on one of the largest, most populated servers, and one of the servers actually known for PvMP play. And I've heard that a lot of other servers don't have any PvMP at all, and I think it's because of these systems. I think it's just inaccessible. And when you don't have, you know, those level classes come into the PvMP game to actually feed the game with competitive players, it's not going to be very fun for the high-end players over time. And high-end players leads me to my last point. Now, my last point is this: give cosmetic or mount or power level rewards to those high-end players. Whether it be on I think mounts in the monster player level would be really cool. Give monster players mounts and allow them to earn cool looking mounts, whether they be wargs or direwolves or even trolls, who cares? Give them something that allows them to really work for it from a cosmetic perspective. And then on the other side, with the free people side, allow them to have mounts, allow them to have cool cosmetic armor sets that rotate throughout seasons. Maybe once every 3 months you've got this cosmetic set, and then the next 3 months you have this other cosmetic set. These would be really, really cool. It'd be a simple vendor, it'd be a simple currency that they could utilize to actually be rewarded for being high level players. Again, if you can reward both for being in the game, I think you're gonna see a lot more play the game. Now again, I come at this very passionately because I've loved PvMP way back in the day. Way back in the day when it was a lot more balanced and it was a lot more fun. It was great to play, and I was really disappointed coming to it here. But I also have a really positive outlook. I want this to work. I want PvMP to be great again. I do, because I think that having a great PvP system will allow that 20 to 25% of players that actively engage in PvP in most MMOs to come over to LOTRO and really enjoy it. And I hope that happens. I really do. I don't know if it will, but I'm hoping that the recent developer update is showcasing a shift in the movement towards PvMP being a focus. And I hope that they take some of these extra steps that, again, I don't think are going to cost a lot of money, don't think they're going to cost a lot of time, but will instantly make it a lot more fun for me as a newer player to come in. And I know that these systems will make it more fun in the long term for those that really love PvMP and just want to play it all the time. Well, friends, I actually want to pass this question out to you. What do you think about PvMP? Was I super harsh? Was I ridiculous? Was I right on the money? Have you enjoyed it? Have you not enjoyed it? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. But as always, friends, if you liked it, please leave it a like. If you loved it, please subscribe. But as always, friends, you are so much more loved than you know, and you are so much more valuable than you realize. I hope you have an incredible day, and I will see you in the next one. Hey, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, leave it a like. It's totally free to do. Subscribe if you want to see more. And as always, I'm live on Twitch over at twitch.tv/BrightLifeCommunity. We're a community of positive and uplifting gamers. Come find a friend to raid with, grab loot with, and just enjoy life together with. Hope you have an awesome day. Be blessed, and you are so loved and so valuable.